I don't even think I need to make a video about this, really. I mean, my shirt kind of says it all. Let's begin. And again, greetings and salutations, my beautiful people. Welcome back to CADDY'S Film Fridays, where we talk about films and films happen. I'm gonna really lie back because this is a very comfy chair. I know it makes me look really podgy and just but I like it if it is comfortable. So I could just sit up straight and look nice and postured and nice and healthy, but I'm not gonna do that. No, and I don't think this film deserves it. Yeah, we're talking about the BFG today. You know, BFG. That bloody fucking girl. Big fondling guy. That brown flying gondola. Or in Doom, the big fucking gun. Or the big friendly goose. This is a film review. The Big Friendly Giant, the BFG. The film that is based off of the Roald Dahl classic book, the guy that wrote Matilda, the guy that wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the guy that wrote The Twits, the guy that wrote all these other books. Yeah, it's been a while since I've read any of them. And the BFG has had an adaptation that I've seen before when I was very small. It was a cartoon adaptation, and if I'm thinking correctly, David Jason was the voice of the self-titled Big Friendly Giant. The story itself is about, well, a big friendly giant who takes a little girl away from her home, and she finds out about all of these other giants that steal and eat children. And with the help of the BFG and everyone else, she can not only stop the other giants from eating all the kids, but also have the BFG not being bothered by the other giants at the same time. They kind of end up helping each other in a weird way. And it's a very dark, especially gotta make that clear, the original book is dark as shit. I haven't personally read it, but Caddicarus, who I watched the film with and who's editing this video, love you honey, she read the book and she really loves it. And she's my go-to source of information for this stuff. And from what she says, the book is dark as all hell, and maybe a little bit racist in some places, because literally they go into the other giants go into detail about how they eat the kids, and the illustrations usually have the other giants with blood on them, and like they talk about how the French kids would smell like cheese. And I'm not going to say anything more with the risk of upsetting complete nations, but you know, it was a different time, I guess you can say. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, I heard that the original story was very dark, and I was looking forward to seeing this adaptation, because I remember the original cartoon that I saw scaring the shit out of me when I was younger. And how did this film fare up? This Steven Spielberg redoing of the classic Roald Dahl story? Well, you might want to flee. This is not going to be spoiler free. Unless, of course, you've read the book, because it's the same base story, at least. Okay, so to start off with, I'm a firm believer in the fact that books are books and films are films. They're never going to be the same. There's no point trying to make them the same. If a movie adaptation is too close to the book, as far as I'm concerned, there's no point in the movie existing. It doesn't show any creative talent, it doesn't show what the directors and the filmers and the audio people, it doesn't show the full potential of what the medium of cinema can bring to the table. That's why I think it's important to have adaptations do their own thing. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is different from Stephen King's The Shining, and I know he didn't like it, maybe because it was different, but here's the thing, every Stephen King film he has had high involvement in, as far as I'm concerned, has been pretty shit. So, authors should stick to writing books, filmmakers should stick to making films, and that's as much as I can say about that. And in this film's case, it follows the base story very nicely, but Caddicarus said there were a few differences from the book. And like I just said, not to contradict myself, there's no problem with that. You can change and bring a new twist onto things that you wouldn't have expected. It makes it original, it makes it interesting to watch, it makes it something fresh for the people that know the story. But in this case, any differences from the film and to the book don't really add to anything, or if they don't, are actually completely pointless and confusing. And just for one example of one of the changes and how it just doesn't add up, in the story, Sophie, the little girl, gets taken away by the BFG, who's walking around London, I believe, I'm not 100% sure. Sophie gets taken away, and she finds out later on in the film, after being taken away, because she saw the BFG, and he didn't want her telling anybody, so that's why he stole her. But after their friendship grows, she finds out that there was another kid, or an original kid, who got taken away by the BFG, but then he couldn't look after the kid, and I think it was he got eaten. And that's apparently completely different from the book. And using that inclusion doesn't make any goddamn sense. If that was the case, it's brought up as such a big deal, so if that was the case, then why the hell did he take Sophie? If he knew that it wasn't safe, and he knew it wasn't clever, and he's done it from past experience, why did he do it again? It doesn't add up. And the pacing of the film itself, even though it looks really nice and it's very well shot, the pacing and the structure is all over the place. Very noticeable in as well with scenes that some go on for far too long. Like there's a bit where Sophie and the BFG find out where the BFG concocts most of his dreams in like a dream forest, in like a dream foresty kind of tree thing that grows the dreams in a weird way. And in one of the only imaginative parts of the film, which you think is just going to be a quick whimsical imaginative part, they jump into a river and end up on the reflection side of the river. They kind of jump in and end up upside down on the other end of the world, if that makes any sense. And it's very cool, very imaginative. But then the scene just drags on and on and on, and Sophie tries to catch some dreams, and it goes on and on and on, and then there's a bad dream that they find, and they over-explain it, and it goes on and on and on and on. And it loses its atmosphere, it loses its charm, and it outstays its welcome, basically. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you get scenes that aren't long enough. The beginning of the film doesn't give you a second. It doesn't give you a second. There's like establishing shots, a narration, and then it just starts. The BFG's there, and it starts. She gets taken away, and it starts. And it would work, I guess, but as I will explain later, it doesn't work at all. It's far too sudden, far too unimpactful, no build-up, no atmosphere setting or anything, especially for how awesome the city itself looks. I'm pretty sure most of it is computer-generated, it looks it. I could be completely wrong, but it looks it. But just because it looks it doesn't mean it doesn't look awesome. It is very atmospheric and very dank and dark and just really gross, and it looks really great. And talking about looking nice, the BFG himself, the way he's animated, the way they make him look so nimble and agile as he gently steps through the world and kind of spins around and kind of ballet dances and leaps over islands and stuff. The way he moves very gracefully for such a big thing, and the way he does everything with such style, like when he's hiding from people in London, he does things with such quick movements, but it's not like quick, it doesn't look animated, it looks real, because it's not like quick animation where like a character would be like, it won't be like that. It's like, it's properly humanized, you know? It's properly humanized. That's him hiding under his cape. But he doesn't kind of go like most cartoons would if they're trying to hide from something. He actually does do that, and then the cape's kind of moving along with him and it follows behind him and everything. And the BFG himself as a character with the voice acting and everything, nailed. Absolutely nailed. I found him a bit too creepy in the original cartoon, but here they absolutely nail him. His voice acting is perfect. The way he says words is perfect. The way he's animated is perfect. I thought he would be a massive creeper. He was not. He was very sweet, very charming. Not the smartest, but very endearing, and the best bit of the film. And for the sake of having the self-titled BFG as your star and main drawing point of the film, they got it spot on. Literally no complaints. And then you get Sophie. Is that her name? I don't know. I'm gonna call her Sophie, the little girl. And she is one of the most, and I'm not exaggerating, one of the most insufferable, intolerable, annoying, grating, irritating, not just girl characters, little girl characters, but child actresses I have ever fucking seen. She is the worst, one of the worst I've seen in years. And does this make me sound like an arsehole saying that the kid doesn't act very well? Well, I don't think so. I mean, even the other day, before I've made this video, Karis, Chloe, her eldest daughter, and I watched that Nicole Kidman movie, The Others. I hadn't seen it before. I thought it was pretty damn good. But the child actors in that film were great. And that was years ago. I don't understand how anyone was okay with anything this girl did. Not only was her character needy yet too cocky and thinks she's an adult, not only was she portrayed badly, not only was she always in the way, not only was she stubborn, not only was she just not very pleasant as a person until the last quarter of the movie, but the acting, oh my god. This is one of the first films in a long time where 15 minutes in, I was about to say to Karis, shall we go in a second? Because it really is that bad. It's not just unbelievable acting, but it is so bad. It's like, A 2-year-old could do better. I'm sorry if this sounds mean. She was awful. Every line she said was wrong. The way she said it was wrong. When she wanted to be angry, she sounded loving. When she wanted to be loving, she sounded upset. When she wanted to be upset, she sounded smart-arsey. When she wanted to be smart-arsey, she sounded whingy. Nothing worked. The deliveries were all wrong. Her faces were all wrong. Her angry expressions would be when she's trying to be clever, and then when she's trying to be clever, she'll look all happy and smiley. Nothing worked, and it changes scene after scene. Whenever the camera's on her, whenever she opens her mouth, whenever she looks nervously and unnaturally at anything that's going on around her. Like, literally, there are parts where she's scared, and you wouldn't even... Like, she gets captured by a bloody giant in his hand, and then gets put in a bag. She doesn't scream once in this entire film. Not once. And then when she comes out the bag, she's willing to just ask questions, but not in a kind of diplomatic kind of, I'm kind of scared way. She just kind of... Oh my, I can't even explain how... You have to see it to believe how awful it is, and I really feel bad saying that most of this movie's problems lie with a child actor, but she is just insufferable. Really, really bad. Just nothing worked. Absolutely nothing worked. No lines worked. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. She didn't deliver right. She didn't move right. She would actually have to say... There was one point where she said, "I am scared," or something. She said it like that, literally. And it's just... Nothing works. It's blonde. It's like blonde. It's bland. It's flat. It's monotone. It's annoying as sin. She cannot act. And it's not because she's loud that she's annoying, it's because she can't get any emotion correct. She can't react with her face in the correct way. Nothing was correct. There wasn't one scene I can commend her for. And whether it was Spielberg being too, like, nice with what she was doing, lots of it feels like they just went with the first take and didn't bother to do it again. It feels that kind of rushed. And when she's a driving point of the film, and when she becomes a major plot point where you have to worry about her well-being, it just falls apart because no one cares. She's horrible. But then going back onto the structural scenes and with the BFG himself, they redo from the book the Buckingham Palace scene with the Queen and how he comes into Buckingham Palace, and they have to talk to her about getting the army involved to go and get rid of the other plot point, the other giants, which I'll get to in a second. And that entire scene was done beautifully. It was shot really well. The jokes were really funny. There was even a massive fart joke it was all building up to, and you know what? It made me chuckle. It was a decent fart joke. It knew it was a fart joke, so it went all the way. It went with the whole CGI faces of dogs that drank the thing that makes you fart, going all the way down, looking ridiculously cartoony and out of place, but still very funny. The Queen farts and it blows the fucking table up. And then there's one of the army captains that drinks, and then he farts and he falls on top of the BFG's table and starts pulling the whole bloody tablecloth down. And I thought it was funny. It's funny because it just is. It just is. It was really well shot and really fast paced, and it knew it was a fart joke and just kind of went with it, and then it moved on. It didn't stay too long or anything, but then the whole palace scene is great. The way he has to kind of crawl around the palace, the way he knocks all the expensive shit over, the way he spits coffee out on all the guards and everything. Every single moment they could get to have a joke about a giant in Buckingham Palace was done, and it was done so well, and it's one of the more talky scenes in the movie, but it's one of the most atmospheric, it's one of the most charming. It pretty much feels like every part of the film should have been going around this as a basis. And then, of course, it goes all the way back to the beginning again with having things that just don't add up. There's a massive plot point of the BFG, and this is, again, coming onto the Giants, which I will get to, but there's the BFG, he has a problem. He's a bit nervous to confront these other Giants. These other Giants are like twice the size of him, and they all live around his house. And they don't see him as one of them because he doesn't eat children, you see. And they're always getting into fights, and they're always bullying him, and they're always doing stuff. And there's a massive plot point going on, and Sophie witnesses it after a couple of times about how he just takes it. He doesn't stand up for himself or anything, so she's like, "You have to stand up for yourself!" And that is pretty much how she says it. It's not good acting. And then at some point later on, they're convinced that there is a human for them to eat, so they ransack his house, go into his factory where he conducts dream making and stuff, wreck it all up, smash everything up. And one of the best acting pieces from the BFG himself, and like animation wise and voice acting wise, comes in there. He is angry, he's frustrated, he's not taking their shit anymore, he explodes, he snaps and gets them all the fuck out. And it's like a kind of kick-ass moment. And so not only is that plot point then wrapped up, it's never brought up again. He had a massive problem with confronting them, so you'd think there'd be like a, oh my god, BFG, look at what you did. But no, he just kind of does it, and then that's it, never mentioned again, so the plot point was completely pointless. And then, after everything is wrecked in his house, every single thing he'd been doing, everything he'd been working towards, everything, after his whole house is destroyed, he has like, the whole scene, you're supposed to feel sorry for the BFG, because it's everything he's been doing. And then for a second, after he confronts them and then gets all the other giants out to stop them from smashing up the place, you then think, oh god, what is he going to do now? And he has one sentence of being sad about it, and then next scene. Never brought up again, never mentioned, we never see it get fixed, we never see what Sophie thinks of everything, we never see her compliment the BFG for how he stood up for everybody and himself. It's nonsense, and it doesn't make you hate the other giants, which you're supposed to do, and here we go, talking about the biggest problem with this film, the other giants. Okay, so in the book, the start of the story is about the witching hour, and they talk about it in the film. The witching hour is like, this is kind of the moral of kids need to go to bed at a certain time, but the witching hour is between midnight and 3 in the morning, I believe. Children were disappearing out of nowhere. So the witching hour that they allude to at the start is the moment where kids need to be in bed. They can't go to the curtains, they cannot open the curtains, they can't go to the window, they can't open the windows, they can't look at anything. And we find out later, it's because the giants eat the kids at that time of night when they all should be in bed. It's kind of scary, kind of dark. And the film starts off with Sophie talking about the witching hour. And she obviously gets a little bit too interested in the witching hour, hears a noise outside, opens the curtains, and whoop, there's the BFG, he takes her, and then everything starts rolling off, and then we find out that it's all the strange child disappearances are from the other giants, and everything's okay. But instead of doing the logical thing of having Sophie narrate what the witching hour is, and while she's narrating it and saying, by this time you should be in bed, don't open the curtains, don't look at the windows, don't step out into the balconies, blah blah blah. While she's saying this, it would have been so effective to have a random other kid get out of bed, open the curtains as she's explaining it, walk out onto the balcony, and then get snatched straight away. Start the film like that, and then cut to Sophie, who then gets snatched by the BFG. Not only making you think, holy crap, our main character's been taken by one of these things, what is she going to do, before revealing it's the BFG, but also effectively showing the threat. We know what the threat is, we need to make sure the characters need to know now what the threat is, and these guys mean business. They want to eat kids. This is serious shit. You never see the giants do anything like that. In fact, the giants later on, they actually make it clear they don't like humans being on their turf, and they actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, talk about how they don't like going to London to take the kids. So how are they supposed to be any kind of threat? How are you supposed to feel sorry for the BFG after all the other giants smash everything up when you don't hate them? You can't be scared of them. You don't feel threatened by them. They're designed cutely and big ol' pudgily, like a fucking Harry Potter troll, I guess. Think of Hagrid's half-brother in Harry Potter. That's what they kind of look like, and that's how they act. They're stupid, they don't talk very well, they're not very angry, they're not very aggressive, they're just dumb comic relief that aren't even that funny. So that's the first major problem. I'm going to go back to my notes. So yeah, you never see them in action, and the film never implies that they even go and eat the kids anyway, so you're just kind of left guessing where the disappearances were until it's revealed that it might be the other giants that they have to then tell the Queen is what's going on. So that's a massive problem. The main problem with the film, it's too pandering. It's not brave enough to stick with the original dark subject matter, and in process of that, doesn't make the main threat of the film a threat, and it just ruins everything. It dampens everything. You don't feel threatened, like I said, like a million times, you don't feel threatened or anything. You're not supposed, and then when they're introduced, they're bigger, yeah, and they're stupider, but then they're thrown off as comic relief. Something fell off, what was that? I don't know. And it's just like, what is this? What is this? Are we supposed to be scared of these guys? And then at the last quarter of the movie, it then becomes a major plot point that these giants are the big problem that are stealing the kids and eating the kids, and they're annoying the BFG and we have to stop them. But honestly, you don't feel like that, because the film just portrays them as stupid dicks. That's it. They don't do anything majorly bad in the film that you see, at least, and just talking about a mysterious kidnapping thing in a witching hour, only to then not explain a single thing and then have the BFG come along, where by that point you know exactly who it is, so it's almost like, well, why did you even mention the witching hour? It just would have been so effective and much creepier and much more in kin with the subject matter, and throw in the lesson of, hey kid, you want to go to bed at this time, because you know what, if you don't, you're gonna get taken by the giants. But no! One of the main morals, I guess, of the story, the hidden moral of the BFG, at the beginning of the story, is not done well at all. They're useless. They're horrible. They're they're some of the worst villains you could ever imagine. And when the army then come with the BFG to then get rid of them and save the BFG and all the other kids that have been eaten that you never actually have an idea of if they're even gone, they get kidnapped, and then they get taken to another island, and then they're forced to stay there in the middle of nowhere. And it's like, what? What is going on? Like, I felt sorry for the big giants, you know? Because they didn't do anything that bad in the film. There's no, like, redemption. You don't feel good about it. You don't feel satisfied that they're getting their comeuppance, because there's no comeuppance to be given. They failed. Spielberg, you fucked up. You did, like, goddamn Jaws. You did Jurassic Park. You did all of these things, and you couldn't get an already written story right. Was it because they were too scared it would be too scary for kids? Did they want to make it as broad and as summer blockbustery and as family friendly as possible for, like, babies to watch it? I mean, okay, it's a nice adaptation, but change it if you're gonna do that. Don't add in these random villains that aren't really villains and then have all this cruel shit happen to them when you never see them do anything, and they never actually really say that they do it, and they only allude to them. It's a mess. It's a total mess. They should have made the giant scarier. They should have introduced it better. They should have introduced the film better, set the mood better, had a creepier atmosphere, and not used the last quarter of the film as the excuse to make everyone feel good about the scary parts, because there aren't scary parts, there aren't creepy parts. It's not that kind of film. So having that lesson learned at the end just doesn't work out. I could rant about all of this all day. Basically, I wasn't even that excited to see this movie, and I came out disappointed, and Caddicarus, who loved the book, was just like, what even is this? So I'm going to say personally, on the recommendation scale, think about it. It's not the worst thing you'll ever see, but holy crap, it had so much good stuff to work with, and it just either doesn't deliver, changes shit that doesn't need changing, and as a film, it feels a little bit rushed and doesn't really leave you satisfied. It just leaves you feeling a little bit empty. It nails a few parts, like the BFG and the whole palace scene and everything, and obviously all those little bits. And I would say the BFG himself is worth it just to see how awesomely animated and how awesome of a character he is, because he is just so cool, but everything else is just throwaway and useless. So basically, the movie falls apart in many places. So yeah, think about it. It's a bloody mess as far as I'm concerned, but it's not one of the worst bloody messes I've ever seen. It could have been a lot worse, but there you go. If it's your birthday watching this video, happy freaking birthday to you. Please remember to stay beautiful, and I'll see everybody on Sunday.